I'm guessing we're live, so I'm just going to say hi. Uh, we are back again for another edition of Office Hours. It's a chilly day here in Pittsburgh. I have my scarf and warm coat on, but we are we're cozy in our offices and we're ready to take on all the marketing questions that you all have out there. So if you haven't been here before and you're not sure how it works, I will tell you. You can live chat a question into the YouTube thing, wherever it might be, or you can send us an email to officehours@shiftcollaborative.com. We may not get to it this week, but we will get to it next week. And before we dig in, I should say I'm Sarah, and with me today is my lovely partner, Cynthia. Say hi.
Hi.
It's good to sing sometimes, I feel.
Hi.
Yeah, just kind of gets you into the mood.
Sure. And it is a chilly day outside, but we have a lot of hot ideas in here, I guess, is what I would say.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a fuzzy cat next to me who's probably going to knock over the camera at some point during the show. So don't let anyone be worried. There's no earthquakes in Pennsylvania that I'm aware of. It's just a large and hungry cat.
Mm. You don't feed him if he's knocking things over.
Oh no, I feed him plenty. He just forgets. He's as you can see, he's well fed.
Aww. Hi, kitty. Well,
anyway,
we could just do cat videos.
For the week? Yeah, we can do cat videos too. I mean, obviously now we're very, meme worthy, share worthy.
Yes, that's right. So let's, I guess, dig in. We'll start with our first segment as we're waiting for the questions to pour in, which is kind of just things in the news, things that have caught our attention this week. And, unless you're living under a rock, you know that the presidential debates happened this week. They started up. And, we're not going to talk about the political side of it. We're going to talk about the advertising side of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a lot. It's this is one of basically the big games of the year. One of the really active times comes every 4 years with our presidential elections. Even though we have elections, every year, these are the ones that get the most attention and therefore get the most eyeballs and therefore get the most advertising money.
Yeah. So something like, just for context, the 2020 Super Bowl drew in 99.9 million viewers. But the projections for the debates was 100 million viewers. And again, this is projection, so I'm not actually sure what the actuals ended up being. But that number did not account for the over-the-top OTT viewing.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
And OTT is what, for the folks that have not heard that term before? Other than the fact that the whole thing was maybe considered over the top, but it has a specific television and advertising meaning.
So it's the delivery of TV or film content via the internet and not delivered to the end user via, the cable network like Comcast or Verizon or Time Warner or whatever. So if you have a smart TV, you can watch things with your internet connection. So that's what it
is increasingly, it's a growing thing. And maybe at some point, like, that'll be the norm, and we'll have some other acronym for actual, like, old school watching stuff on a tube or a big screen.
Remember those boxes that we used to have on our mantles?
How hard it was to, move a TV into your house. I mean, now it is just because of the ungainliness and the fragility of things. But like, I can remember one time I bought a TV at Best Buy when I had moved down to Virginia, didn't have one, and needed to get it back in my little car, get it to my home. And I had to take it out of the box and put it in the passenger seat with a seatbelt across it.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I remember them just obviously being so big and bulky. I mean, they were like, this was the front and this was the back. You just had so much surface area that you needed to account for and figure out where it was going to fit within your home. So those problems, you still have to figure out where to put it, but it's a little different problems these days. So anyway, back to the matter at hand.
Right. So there was, a fair amount of people watching this debate this past week. It's yet to be seen exactly what's going to happen with the next two planned debates. Of course, lots of questions in a variety of ways. And again, we don't need to get into that. But the as far as like the advertising itself, I mean, I think it's interesting because there were no ads in the first debate during the debate itself. So different from, say, the Super Bowl or any other sporting event where like you're thinking about what's going to be during the intermission, what's going to be at the time. This was all advertising around the event.
Yeah, for sure. And so the advertising sold out or nearly sold out, just depending on, which network it was. So like 17 of the 20 TV networks airing the debates were reportedly sold out or near sold out. So that's an interesting stat. And I guess during the last presidential election, that number was more like about 13 TV networks aired the debates. So we've got more networks now who that are airing the debates, therefore more inventory, I guess, for advertisers.
Right, for sure. And actually for this debate, and again, there was not as much, earlier this year, there weren't quite as many, what is the word that I want? Like sort of, I'm going to call them like the preliminaries or the semifinals. There weren't like stages along the way where we had a lot of people, because of course for the Republican Party, there was not like a contest over who was going to be the candidate. And it was fairly early on, and plus the pandemic happening, that caused the Democrats to kind of narrow down and choose their person. So even so, the market's been a little bit different this year. But as I understand it, for this first presidential debate between the two parties, the viewership was less than it was in 2016. There was more of a viewership for the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump debates than for this one this past week. And we'll see what happens for the next two if they happen. But even still, the ad revenue is expected to exceed that from 2016, at least per debate. There's just a lot more money out there, and it's more concentrated.
Right. So I didn't watch the debates. Did you watch the debates?
I did not watch them live. No, I watched a movie. I watched Moneyball.
Great. Well, it was more like, did you see any of the commercials, I guess, like you're saying, before and after, and when they were doing the analysis pieces, but just, I know for certain that one of the advertisers that kind of took advantage of advertising during the debate was Absolute.
Which is an interesting choice. And so what was their slogan?
Yeah, they the name of their campaign and their slogan is vote first, drink second. So we would like you to prioritize your voting and then remember to cap it off with a cocktail. So yeah, they actually started running that campaign on the 29th. So it's a new campaign, and it's running in a variety of places, but
and just doing a real quick check to see like, what does this campaign look like? Of course, Absolute, I can remember it from my college days, so late 80s, being a very big advertiser. And in fact, one of the alcohols that really kind of created this new wave at the time of alcohol advertising, with their iconic bottle shape and so on, in the mid 80s and beyond. This apparently their first TV ad in 3 years. TV advertising for alcohol kind of went away for a while and has been on the upswing. They've got a lot of spokespeople. What is guy who plays the superhero that looks like
Ryan Reynolds, Aviation Gin.
That's right. And then for Wild Turkey, it is Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we've got people doing some very interesting, different new takes, and alcohol, being a little more freely advertised than it used to be. But so this ad here, this vote first, drink second, come together and vote for our future, trying to find a way to get the, don't try and drink your troubles away, but, still stay responsible, still get involved, and let's all come together, which I think is, probably the best possible take you could have. I think that's a pretty good message.
I agree. I think that this is a good campaign. I like it. I think we are seeing a lot of advertisers, trying to, if you will, get out the vote, to use a term from MTV. So it's not like Absolute is alone in, trying to create some awareness around registering to vote and voting. But they have a good take on it,
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really interesting one. I like this here. I don't think we'll play the whole sort of ad, but your vote can shake or stir the election. Little allusion there to your vodka martinis. So I think we approve. We commend Pernod Ricard over there. Of course, massive owner of a bunch of different alcohol brands. But good job, folks.
Good job. Well done. You get
Cheers
our seal of approval. So kind of related to that, there was a study that came out that's talked about the strategy of showing ad content that was showing an ad that was relevant to the content specifically that someone was watching. So in the sort of vein of, I'm watching the debates, and then, before and or after showing that Absolute ad that has a clear connection to the content that I'm watching, that is a direction and a strategy that, according to this research that we found, is really paying off. So something like nearly half, 44% of consumers report trying new brands after seeing a relevant ad. And this is a study that was done by Double Verify, which is a media measurement platform.
It kind of makes sense because, the ads that we like to tune out are when I say like to tune out, the ones that we tend to tune out are the ones that are most obviously ads. But if the content is related to what you're, to the content of the ad is related to the content of what you're seeing, then it has, maybe it's just more of greater interest to you. It might take you a second to recognize that it's not a related thing. And I think this is maybe related in some ways to when you've got ads in a magazine that are connected to maybe some sponsored content or something. So it seems like it's all part and parcel of the same thing, or at least your mind doesn't have to make such a cognitive leap to get to the mind space of wanting to be thinking about whatever the ad's talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a real, major creative coup if you can do that and kind of, I don't like to use the word trick, but essentially create this seamless experience so that the user's actually, the watcher's not, wait, is this an ad? And maybe they don't know it's an ad till like the middle or the end. And that's okay. That's a good thing. I think that if you've done your, the creative job well, then you've hooked them in immediately and you haven't made them leave or quit watching it. So I think it's a good direction, a good strategy to go, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, if something is interesting to you, then you don't care as much whether it's an ad or editorial or journalism. If it says something that is something that you want to know about, then it's content and it's interesting to you.
Yeah, which means that, you don't have to be Absolute or any of the huge advertisers to, kind of use this strategy. You just have to really be paying attention to what your audience is consuming and how you could, kind of dovetail your content or your ad into that and make it work. So anybody can use this strategy. It's not like you have to be spending millions of dollars on your ads to have this work. It's really, we preach it all the time, know your audience and what they care about and what their pain points are and, what their emotional state is. And when you're interrupting them with an ad, so that you're not so much interrupting them.
Just saying, hey, I want to build on that thing. Right now, of course, there's, and for the rest of this political season, this election season, there's going to be a lot of content available in different places beyond just television, and a lot of like clips and things being reshared. So I think you want to be thoughtful about where what your ads are showing up next to, and choose, if you're choosing to be there, maybe be there. Like, don't pull a stunt of like, hey, and if you're thinking about election, why don't you elect to also like do some, don't make an awkward transition.
Don't make it corny.
Right. I mean, if what you're doing is truly not related to the election, you know, be focused and choose to put your advertising efforts elsewhere, or, you know, consider even putting things on hold until this season is over. I mean, it's only, you know, a few more weeks, but if there is something where you feel like that you've got something to say to add to the conversation, go ahead and take advantage of some of the other lower cost ways of doing that, which include doing video ads on YouTube or text ads on YouTube, apps, and on the different social media channels where it's appropriate.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, because we have some clients that have campaigns running during an election week, and leading into and you know, during the week itself, and then they can't really change those plans. So it's really thinking about, well, if we can't relate our ad content to what this person is watching, we have to still do, you know, something good with the messaging so that it still lands, that it still breaks through the clutter of everything else. And maybe, you know, just maybe people need a break from all of that. And if you could be that break, think about how you would, you know, message around that. So even if you can't relate your content, like you said, don't try to. If you can't, take a different direction. You can come up with a different direction if that's the case.
And then I think we want to add into that, if you do decide to do something that has political things, if maybe you're saying, hey, our brand really wants to engage in this moment, and talk about voting and encourage people to vote, make sure you're complying with the requirements for whichever platform it is, whether it's Facebook, Google, or whatever, for transparency. So there's a lot of new things around this, particularly this year, and it's like changing week by week. So you've got to stay on top of it. But these things are in place because they're, you know, there's been some clear. It's very clear that people have been placing ads, pretending to be the opposition or so on. So all of the different platforms have now added all these kinds of transparency, all these ways that you have to like declare yourself, say who you are, and prove who you are. So
and some restrictions, some restrictions too, like you can't start a new political ad campaign in Facebook. What did we talked about this last week, like within a couple of weeks, like within a week of you have to do it.
I think you still could now, right? But I think
it's like a week. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but October
coming right up. And I don't know what that's going to mean as far as like changing the content of an existing campaign. So that is another wrinkle of it that I'm not sure I'm completely on top of. But if you're going to advertise for now, keep on top of those rules, as I'm sure you are.
That's right. Well, that's enough campaign talk.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I don't need any more surprises. I think I'm, you know, like I want some calm, you know, may you live in interesting times remains a curse.
Yeah.
But were you surprised by anything this week? I think you were. There was something we were talking about earlier. Which was a new icon that showed up on your phone.
Yeah, so I stumbled upon it actually this morning, to be honest. And I was going through, I have all of my like social and business apps in like one little square on my iPhone. And I noticed an icon that I had never seen before. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, it was called BusinessSuite. And I was like, huh, what is that? I've never downloaded something called BusinessSuite. And then I opened it and it was I had Facebook pages. We manage and monitor a number of our clients' business Facebook pages. So I had that Pages app in case I needed to check on things, you know, after hours. And it was replaced by BusinessSuite. And I don't think this article shows the icon.
Well, that's what I was kind of going to remark on here. So this is an article about this new app. This is like the new version. If your phone upgraded it for you, it's now called BusinessSuite. Facebook not in the name. The picture they're showing here is, you know, your typical Facebook, you know, regular consumer level app, but that is not what this thing looks like. So I'm going to pull it up real quick on my phone. You can see some of the other apps I've got on here. including some I haven't used in a long time. But so there it is. Is it, here, let me switch back to us. So it's this little guy right there. That circle with an arrow, BusinessSuite. Have you ever seen anything more generic?
No, it doesn't. It's very generic. It looks like maybe some sort of like sideways envelope situation. I'm really not sure.
You can turn it sideways. It looks like a little angry owl or a happy owl. It's a little owl. It's moving forward. So that's business oriented. But it's nothing to the Facebook brand.
Yeah, on my phone, it's one word, BusinessSuite, all together. Capital B, capital S. I don't know if that's...
On mine, it's 2 words. So that's weird as well.
So I'm not sure why it's one word on mine. But regardless, it doesn't look anything like any of the other Facebook. Actually, I think you and I were talking about how like the Facebook ads app doesn't really look like.
Yeah, no, I have that too. Right.
It's got a sub-branding issue.
Yeah. So, and so then you have to go, we recommend that Facebook go and watch our video from last week where we talked about brand houses.
House of brands and branded houses.
This is what the Facebook ads icon looks like. It's this first one here next to the Google ads icon. Yeah. So it does have a little arrow and a circle. Maybe that's a direction that their brand is going to go for their business stuff, circles and arrows and... Fine,
but it has the word Facebook in it too.
True.
Like if that app, my apps update in the background, so I didn't notice. I guess this has been like 2 weeks, and I don't use it on my phone that much. I use the desktop version, which is business.facebook.com, which is where all these same tools that you can now get in the mobile app are where I use a lot of these tools. So I just didn't notice. And if you're going to, have an update in the background and know that your users are doing that, then why not put your brand name in the app name?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you can either change the icon or change the name, but don't do both.
Right.
But anyway, so there's this new app. What does it do? Like, what's new about it other than the icon?
So, with Pages, the old app, if you had it, it was just Facebook. Now you can manage your Facebook and your Instagram pages from one interface.
That's awesome.
So that's nice.
Yeah. The Instagram thing being separate has always been a challenge. And I think it's just something going on within the company about having, integrating the Instagram world and the people and interfaces, APIs, I imagine, I don't know, all together.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows what kind, when they acquired Instagram, who knows what, kinds of things were in place as to what would be developed and what timeline things would be changed on. Maybe there's some sort of moratorium on doing some of these things that has expired and now they're starting to do it. I don't know. I'm just making this up. I have no idea. But anyway, nonetheless, they're starting to bridge together a little bit more, the interfaces between Instagram and Facebook.
And it's been going on through the, business.facebook.com, the business manager tools suite that we've, had for some time, even though that continues to change. I mean, every week it seems like the interface is a little bit different. But doing it on the mobile devices, I think is a real improvement because so much of, in particular for Instagram, so much of what you want to do is very camera and image related. Although in many cases, if you're doing these things in a polished way, you want to be able to update stuff through your phone. I mean, through your, through the regular desktop, bigger screen. Thing. This thing I stare at all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you do your creative on the desktop, but then use the mobile to like monitor and check in, it's probably nicer and easier to, respond on the fly using, knowing that you're responding as the page, for example. If you have, if you have it on your device and you're logged into your personal account and you have your, business Instagram accounts in the same area, it, can get a little confusing. And I have personally liked something as the brand that I meant to like as me.
Me too. And followed people or refollowed or replied. So those mistakes, anything that we can do to avoid them, it's a glorious thing.
Right. So I think that this app sort of is aimed at that. So I'm not like dissing on the features in the app just yet, because I haven't really kind of fully explored them. I'm dissing what it looks like on the as the mobile icon and how it was rolled out. I wish it was rolled out a
This
little
little
bit better.
stealth rollout thing was not fair.
Yeah. Which I don't know, maybe there was some sort of like blinking message somewhere and I just missed it, but I usually pay attention, so I don't know. Just didn't see it.
Communication challenge no matter what.
Right. And so sort of on the same lines, a couple days ago, we read an article on The Verge about how the Facebook is bridging together the messaging platforms between Facebook and Instagram, which is interesting. I think the main crux of it is that they're going to allow users on Messenger to message each other from app to app, so that you can just have one messenger. I think that's how that's working. So Facebook, it's called Messenger on Facebook, and Instagram has like a messaging, like direct messaging as well, but it's not as sophisticated maybe as the Messenger side of things.
Yeah. I think anything that reduces the number of individual ways that people can contact other people. I mean, I think there's reasons why people have chosen certain things, and it mostly has to do with the community that's on the other side of it, or the rest of the community that's connected to it. Because each tool like this is only as useful as the number of people it's connected to. So bringing together two different communities has the plus of making it so that you can reach more people, has the minus of, oh my gosh, now everybody can reach me when I didn't want them to before. So I'm sure there's, from the user side of point of things, maybe there's reasons why they might not be excited about it. For Facebook's point of view, anything that they can do to have you spend more time on their platforms is delightful to them.
Yeah, but it sort of goes against the grain of, sort of individualism within a social platform. It's like, well, I'm an Instagram user, that's my main platform, or I'm a Twitter user, that's my platform. So like when you start to like merge them together and all the same things that make it its own specific community start to, like, it just kind of goes away. And you think about like Instagram is integrating this thing called Reels, which is just to compete with TikTok. And so like everyone's just doing the same things inside of their social media platform. So I'm just wondering if that spells future disaster, or perhaps opens the door for some new platform that's not going to get bought up by anybody else, that's going to stay all by itself. So
I mean, we've seen a few different other platforms come forward that were trying to be more, here, you can build your own small network and we won't expose you to all the other people. And the challenge for anything like that coming in right now is that the network for the people the platforms that are already out there is so large, you have to convince people to come join me over here. Right. It's kind of like, I'm at this big festival and hey, I'm going to have a tiny little party next door. Come hang out with me instead of go hang out with all the cool kids. And so there are definitely people that are going to want to do that, and have their reasons for doing that. And then there is the piece of just like right now, social media, I think the word cesspool is too strong a word, but it is really a little bit of a nasty place in certain ways. So, and even the platforms that aren't focused on that, there's just a lot of noise. And so there is a point of us, will we all get burned out?
I think, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that people are getting burned out and take breaks, and it's part of like a mental health regimen. Like take yourself off of social media for however long you can. Is it 24 hours a week, a month? I don't know. I've seen all of those. Like, I'm gonna go away for a month. I'm not gonna use my Facebook page, and I'll be back in a month. So ta-ta for now. And then they come back and talk about how it was glorious. And then
how great it was.
Why are you back?
Right. You have to wonder. You absolutely have to wonder.
Anyway, so As far as these features, though, they're also at the same time that they're kind of bridging these platforms together. I guess Instagram, they're getting a major overhaul of their direct DM system, which is good because I found it a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. But that's me, and I'm, maybe not the primary target for the Instagram user.
Could be. I definitely am not. I don't know that I've ever responded to more than 3 messages on Instagram. So not my jam.
Not your jam, yeah. And then they have this other feature that this new system will enable, which is a watch together feature.
Right, watch together is the big thing. All the cool platforms have it. Netflix has been going with this thing that they're calling Netflix Party. Now, have you been part of a Netflix party yet?
No, I'm not cool enough.
I have also not been part of it, but I have just because I haven't had the occasion. But it makes perfect sense, particularly for things where like the new season of Great British Baking Show, I believe is what we call it here in the U.S. New Great British Bake Off overseas.
It's hard to say.
Well, it's tough because I think Pillsbury has the trademark on Bake Off in the United States, which is why it has to have a different name here. But but we're all eagerly anticipating it. Each new week they put out a new episode, and we want to see who's going to make the worst possible baguette this week. Or last week, I won't spoil it, but there were some really, really ugly cakes.
I love the ugly cakes.
Certain accidents happened.
Yes.
And it was good fun. But so when that shows, like, you want to be able to be those things like that, where it's not like, they release the whole season all at once, but the show's going to come out at a certain time and a bunch of people want to watch it all together. This is how you do it. So you use Netflix Party, you add this to maybe your Chrome browser, or you add it to some other device that you've got, and then you can watch with other people. And so so you create the party, you invite your friends, everybody's into it, and then off you are, and you're off and running. So these kind of watch together things, it's almost like streaming, but it's the closest we're going to get to having everybody over and getting a bunch of pizzas, so that you can kind of all talk and laugh together. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know that I have a show that like all three or four of my friends, because that's how many friends I have, are into. Like, we're not necessarily into the same stuff. So I don't know. I have my own, I have more sort of symmetry with what my child watches. So we watch things together.
And you don't need separate devices for that. You're all right there.
Yeah,
it can be good though, if you wanted to, like, it doesn't have to be one of these new things. It could just be anything that's on Netflix. So, and you can, just watch a movie together, so you can have like a remote date night, or like a, sisters kind of party, or a socially distanced, I don't know, bridal shower. I don't know. Thing.
A thing. Yeah, no, I think sounds like there's a lot of different uses for it, and it's interesting. I guess it's just interesting that Facebook is getting on to the bandwagon of viewing party. So, and
I can't blame them.
Yeah. All these features that we're talking about, it's of what we read is it's unclear of when these things will be rolled out. They're going to test them in certain select markets. Facebook does have an office here in Pittsburgh, so I wonder if we'll be one of those markets. Who knows?
Could be.
We'll see.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So that was the news. That was a lot of news.
It's a newsy time. It's a time of news. There's too much news.
So for those of you who are just tuning in, we went over today's news, and at any time during the show, you can ask us your questions. You can chat them using the live chat feature here on YouTube, or you can email us your question to officehours@shiftcollaborative.com. We'll be happy to take a look at that. We might not get it to this week, but we will definitely get to it next week.
Absolutely. And actually, we did get a question in this week. I wonder if I can throw this up. I should have put it up on a separate screen, and I didn't think to do that. But so when people send questions in, we're excited because we are doing all this kind of work to sort of share some new ideas and give people a chance to maybe get a little bit of marketing consultation without having to leave the comfort of their desk or other location. So, oops, that's almost too big. There we go.
That's good.
So here we got an anonymous question. Someone who business related doesn't want maybe want to expose their company, their firm, their employer. I'm not sure. But it was a good question from Growing Concerns. So Growing Concerns recently received a work request from an existing client and wondered whether other clients are thinking the same thing. This is Max, everybody, by the way.
Max.
Their message was, the message from the client was, I'd like to ask you to do this thing if you have the bandwidth, and I need it in the next couple of weeks. And that's a great I love getting those emails. Here's the thing I need, and I don't need it today. It can come in time, and I'm excited. I'm coming to you because I know you're my firm. So those are good questions. But Growing Concerns was worried because, if they're asking, do you have time? Does that mean that they don't know that we've got capacity, or do they think we're slow, or what is that? What's the story behind the story there?
Right. This question of bandwidth, I guess, like, do you have, what does that mean to them, or what is their understanding of bandwidth versus what we actually know to be the truth on our end? And also the request itself, I think a lot of times clients or customers don't necessarily understand how long something takes. Something that they think is super easy could actually end up, like, we look at it and go, that's a little bit more complicated than perhaps, you're thinking, and here's why. And then sometimes it's, hey, this thing, here's all this stuff I need you to do, and can you do it, quickly? It's like, yeah, that looks pretty straightforward. We can do that pretty quickly. But they think it's going to take a really long time. So it's an education sort of thing. And, your customers and your clients aren't in the same industry as you, most likely. So they don't that, like what things take for yourself to do things, but they don't know that,
Right. And so this just kind of like any sort of a sales and client relationship situation, it's an opportunity to give them more information, maybe even make them aware of other things that they have never asked for before. We have had some situations, Sarah, where we've had a client for a while, but we've only engaged with them, and they've only engaged us for one particular service area. And, we can have told them at the beginning all the things that we do, but maybe there was some turnover in staff, or we've added capabilities, or their needs have changed, and suddenly they have a greater need for the kinds of things that they never asked us for before. And so all of those cases are, it's kind of like, how do you not know that we do that? We do that all the time. But the fact is that people don't remember things,
and they're not living in our world. Yeah, they're not living in our world. We're executing these things for people day in, day out, and we know what we do, of course. And our website maybe is telling people what we do, but they're not, going to our website and like looking at our capabilities every time they need a thing from us. They have a relationship with you or me, so they're calling you or me and like, hey, how we have this thing. Is this something that you guys do? We're not sure. So that we run into that quite often.
Sure. And so it's a great chance to just kind of share with them what we can do, show them some examples. It's a reminder to me that one needs to have like some nice collateral, things that you can email, or, quick summaries that maybe you can expand on, that are simpler to digest than a whole like business pitch presentation or something that just says, hey, these are the kinds of things we do. Here are links to a couple great examples, and let's give a chat. It's also a reminder to try to reach out periodically when people aren't asking for things, and just say, hey, how are things going with you? How could we be helpful?
Right. And I think along that same line, the question here is about like, oh, well, my team has recently grown. And so our capacity is larger than, perhaps what you knew a couple of months ago. And so letting people know that in a sort of outside, let's take the pandemic out of it, like you say, like kind of periodically checking in with clients to let them know, hey, just so you know, our team has grown. We now have these new capabilities, or we have expanded capabilities because our team has grown. And I think for me personally, like we do try to let our clients know when we're hiring, and just to let them know we're hiring this position because we're growing and we're going to be able to better serve you. So in advance of us even bringing on that new team member, I try to start talking to our clients about it so that they know it's coming. But I think in this case, I don't know what the situation is, but letting people know during a pandemic, it's a little bit different, because what the question here is saying, like, a lot of businesses are downsizing or closing, or just, they're really struggling. And so if you're out there saying, we've got all this capacity and we're growing and, all these good glowing things, it might come off kind of not being very empathetic to what the, world is experiencing. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. And so I think probably every firm is a little bit different there, figuring out what's the right way to shape that. And number one, I think it just is part of it is just tone, like celebration and stuff like that. Well, certainly I'm not going to do anything that involves a parade, visuals of a parade or anything like that. That just feels like wrong. I don't know that I'd be able to get imagery that would be right. So there's some pieces of that are just kind of like, maybe it's too obvious to say, but it's just like the style of the communication is there. But you can do that without seeming like somber. Like, in these dark times, we feel so fortunate to be able. I think there's another way you could push the tone too far the other direction too.
Right. Yeah. Well, balance is important in communications, of course. Figuring out what the right. Sometimes like leaning towards humorous or leaning towards somber in certain, it can be good, but I think you have to consider what you're trying to communicate, when you're trying to communicate it, what that end user is going through. And if you have a lot of customers and you know them pretty well and you know their situation, if they're struggling, or you know that they've had to lay people off, well, then you can tailor that outreach to them very specifically so that it is in the right, tone for them.
Right. So it isn't like an ambulance chaser thing. It's like, hey, we know you had some issues. We're available if you want to think about that, and maybe we'll offer you this extra something for free, because we are, I think, trying to support other businesses, other clients, and we want our clients to hang around. We want them to survive just as much as we want our vendors to survive. We all are kind of, I think, in the best world, we're in this together, as opposed to, scrambling to get that last penny.
Right. And I think that, if there's a way with this new hire that you've brought on, or this additional capacity that you built, if you can tailor the, we know right now that you're trying to improve your website so that you can, get more sales online, that you need those sales online. Well, we've just hired a web person who, we'd like to offer, they take a free, they'll take a free audit of your site and see if there's things that, you could improve so that you can reach that goal. So kind of really tailoring it to that person's need. And then, but you can still tie in, oh, well, we have this other person, we have this capacity, without saying we're growing and we can now serve all of your needs, or whatever it might be. So
I think that's right. So being thoughtful, and maybe then if you're ever unsure about the message, having other people take a look at it, maybe somebody who's a little bit outside your scope, and just seeing without knowing a lot about the behind the scenes, how does it sound to someone else? Always good to have a reality check like that.
Definitely. Totally agree. All right.
We have a lot of different topics, and there was so much news this week. I wonder, Sarah, what do you think about like maybe jumping to a little bit of a how-to thing, and saving some of our other topics for when we can take more advantage of them next week?
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
One of the things that, so my how-to is this week is going to be about passwords, which anyone who's known me at all knows is one of the things I care a lot about, that people have secure passwords, and it's, I think we've all, possibly everyone has been guilty of using a less than secure password once in their life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we don't need to talk about what they were, but the kinds of things that
I'm
make
not going to
for
tell
an
you.
insecure. You know.
I will say it's not like password 1234. Okay. I'm not that bad.
But that's exactly the kind of thing. And I see it so many times. We see it so many times. Well, you know, a client will give us access to something. Maybe there's a system that doesn't let you have multiple users. And so they give you their access to it. And first of all, maybe they'll be emailing it to you. I don't want to send me the email, text me. Let's find another communication method.
Send it in 2 or 3 different emails broken up into bits.
At least something. But the other thing that it can be is that the password will be something like the word password, or even worse, you know, it's got a capital P, so they think that's a little more secure, or they've attached a number to it, or I literally saw a password 1234 as a password recently, and I thought those were all gone. So
yeah, I thought the internet clenched those away, but no.
My plea to the internet these days is please don't make sure the word password is not your password. And so that would be the first thing.
I was just going to ask you, I don't know if it's part of your how-to, but Chrome has this feature where, you know, if you're allowing it to save all of your passwords, it tells you if anything's vulnerable. It checks them all and flags them as vulnerable, and then you can see them and you can switch them. And I recently had 18 vulnerable ones.
Okay. Wow. Great.
18.
I'm glad that Chrome is doing that for you. Great.
I'm a little ashamed to say how high that number was. That took a lot of trust in you all. But I was alarmed. And I immediately, and it was, you know, to sites where I've purchased things.
Right. So things where there's credit card and other financial information in there. Well, so as I think some of the 13-step programs say, we're only as sick as our secrets. And so by revealing that, you're making the healing come around. So letting others know that let's bring in the healing. Let's bring in the love and the warmth. But yeah, so using a tool first of all, using some kind of tool, including like your browser tracking what your passwords are for you, so that it can put them in for you, but it can do that kind of evaluation for you. Or you know, Apple, within the Apple universe, it'll track passwords for you and let you use them from one device to the next, and it'll do that kind of evaluation to a certain extent. Or you can use a tool like LastPass or 1Password, these things where it's a system that you're paying for every month or every year that will make up new and hard to crack passwords, keep track of them, make sure they're all different. And it'll do these kind of checks where it'll look at the databases that are out there in the world from all the times when there have been security breaches, and all of those, you know, usernames and emails and passwords have been uncovered. And, you know, they know the password you used to have back on AOL or Yahoo or whatever back in the day. Your old, MySpace password is out there in the world, and they'll let you know you're using that password because you think it's not vulnerable, but it's out there. So, using a tool like that is a great thing that you can do. In the password that you have, whether you're using a tool or not, don't use words. Don't just use a word that could be looked up in the dictionary. And then that includes a foreign language dictionary. So don't assume that just because, you know, a word is in French means it can't be looked up. It can so be looked up. They have all the dictionaries. So use something that's not in a dictionary. At least put 2 words together. 2 words that don't go together. So for example, fireplace, I guess that's really one word. What would be another?
Fire cat.
Dog. Fire cat would be a little bit better. Like dog day, as in dog day afternoon. That's still a phrase. Like that's in a dictionary. People have used it enough. So don't use something like that. Don't use any personal data. Don't use your name. Don't use your children's names. Don't use anybody's birthday. Don't use Christmas. You know, none of those things. Pets' names. The best you could do is like combine 2 pets' names. That would be hard to look up. It would take them probably, you know, a couple of days at least to crack that password.
What about like 2 different pet names and 2 different birthdays that weren't related to the pets?
Right. That might be random enough that someone would actually have to be, a bot wouldn't probably get that for you. but a person who knows you might guess that you were trying to do that. So, well, so I would use multiple words that don't go together, and maybe add in some random characters and some other things. So let me say that one other thing you can do, if you've got a tool, like we said, that can help you, that's a good thing to try. Otherwise, there are certain tools that are making free password checkers available. I wouldn't choose just any password checker in the world, because some of them could have nefarious things going on behind the scenes. But this is one that is trustworthy. Kaspersky.com is a password checker tool. And so down here, well, first of all, hello, little bot. And second, here's a little tool that's going to help us try some things. So like you said, like if we had teacup, like we were saying a minute ago, as a password. So it's going to give me a little analysis. If that's your password, you need to change it. It's been used by a whole bunch of other people. It's not very clever. And if you use that and someone was trying to brute force their way into your account, they'd be able to do it in about 2 minutes. So
2 minutes.
That's pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you did like T hurricane, 2 words that don't go together at all. So now that's longer, and it's apparently T hurricane is using words, and so it's not common, but it is a word. It's not in any of the available databases that have already been revealed, but they could still get in there in about 12 hours.
So it's saying it is easily crackable.
It is, because they're just going to combine a bunch of different things. Now, if we add some numbers on the end of that, T hurricane, and then just some random numbers that I can remember, now all of a sudden,
that's nice.
It would take them 32 years to hack out my computer.
Yeah,
so 32 years is a good long time. Yeah. And maybe I would change it in the meantime. So they'd have to start over.
You set yourself a reminder 32 years from now.
31 years
half.
from now. Right. And then they have to go. So can you want to give me a password that you think you want to, not one that you know, obviously.
Yeah. I wouldn't use one that I know. Let's see. Red.
Okay.
Applesauce.
Space apple sauce. Let me know any capitals you want me to do along the way too.
I was just going to give you some numbers. So 4835 exclamation point.
Exclamation point. Okay, and that is a hack-resistant password.
11 centuries. What? Go me.
Go you.
This is
I think
fun.
adding that extra character in there helped a lot. Adding in a couple different numbers, and then those spaces between red applesauce and between applesauce and the numbers count as special characters as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yet, if you did a number in there that you could remember, and then the exclamation point at the beginning or the end, like you could remember that. Red applesauce is not so hard for a human to remember, but to a computer, it is as random as anything else, because the words don't necessarily go together. So those are our password tips. So again, number 1, don't use the same password everywhere. Number 2, use something that's random and weird enough that other people can't possibly have guessed it. And number 3, change password at least every so often.
Yeah, I like, we use a tool at work, and I like it. And I also use, Google's password stuff for my personal things. And I just let them pick the most randomest thing and let it remember it. So.
Yeah, I like that too. The only times where I, use something where I want to use words is if I'm going to need to at some point type it into a different device that I don't for some reason have the thing. Because copying those numbers over.
Oh, that's a pain. I have had to do that.
And then do check out Kaspersky.com and their password tool if you're trying to evaluate the security of the tools of the passwords that you've got right now.
Yeah, Casper. See, I kind of read that like Casper Sky.
Oh, I was reading it as sort of like a Russian, like I was assuming it was some chess champion going in a new direction.
Kaspersky. Well, that makes sense. But I don't know. I was also kind of, the word key is inside of that word. And so I see that word in there, and it's like a secret key. Anyway.
I bet you're really good at those things where it's like a grid of like words and letters, and like you have to spot the words in there.
I love those, actually. Actually, I do.
Actually, you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our tip for the week, our little bit of a tool tip. And we do this, pretty much each episode, try to have some advice and things that are sort of practical for you. But if there's something that you want to know more about security, we can talk more about security in a future episode. In fact, next week, I think maybe we'll dive into it. It's certainly very hot right now because there's a lot of concern about, as people are working from home and relying on computers more, there's just more of a tempting situation for people to try to hack in or try to disrupt. But and then with the election, it just becomes even more complicated. So now is a good time to focus on security for yourself personally, for your family, and for your business.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things that people like. It's a thing that they know they need to do and they worry about it a little bit, but they don't always take action. It's kind of like until something bad happens and they get hacked, or their personality is assumed by somebody else, or whatever it is, identity is thieved. They don't take action. So be proactive with these things. Certainly it was a wake-up call for me when Chrome said you have 18 vulnerable situations, need to fix them right away. And I was able to fix 17 of them, but one of them is a website that I don't remember ever going to.
Wow.
And I can't get into it. So I can't change the password. Like, I can't figure out how to log into it with the existing password.
Okay.
So anyway, that's a personal matter. I was going to say I handled 17 out of 18 and just have that last one to figure out.
Yeah, you'll get there. And now you know to never use that password again. So
right.
That's good
too. No worries. Yep.
Well, so if anyone has any questions about security or other kinds of topics, we're happy to dive in and do a little research. If you send us a question ahead of time at officehours@shiftcollaborative.com, or send us something on the chat, we'll do our best and respond in live time next week or any other Friday at noon to 1 here on our Shift Office Hours.
That's right. We're here every week. So come back next week and tell your friends to come. And we can't wait to answer your questions. I will say, if you're in the East Coast, enjoy some leaf colors. I don't know. I think it's beautiful out this time of year. So try to get outside.
Get outside, enjoy the air, and have a wonderful weekend. We look forward to seeing you all sometime soon. Bye.